Hey, Turf Nerds listeners, Mr. Producer here, and I've got a huge announcement. Wait a minute, I don't produce this show. Anyways, enjoy the upcoming episode with Kris Kiser.
Hey, it's Aaron with the Mowing in the Dark Lawn Care Podcast.
Hey, this is Tony's Lawn Care Talk.
Hey guys, Cameron here with the Lawn Care Life in Missouri.
Hey guys, this is Dan White with Lawn Care Unscripted.
What up guys, it's Phil with Phil's Lawn Care.
And you're listening to the Turf Nerds.
Chris, welcome back to Turf Nerds, a Lawn Care Podcast. Okay, so as President and CEO of OPEI, you're the mastermind behind the Equip Expo. So for listeners who might not know, which I mean, I'm sure everyone knows by now, right, Greg? But for those who might not know, give us a quick snapshot of what the Equip Expo is and why it's a big deal for us folks here in the lawn mowing and landscaping world. The floor is yours.
Mastermind might be a stretch. It makes me sound like the evil villain. Fantastic team, right? So you guys know the show pretty well. Big event, industry-wide event. I call it a family reunion, but it's a big show, right? So it's the annualized trade show for the outdoor power equipment industry and our users, landscapers, contractors, irrigation folks, hardscape folks, you name it, tree care, if you're in the business. So we're 42 years young in Louisville, Kentucky. OPEI, the trade association I run, owns the show now in its entirety and manages the show. We're 3 years into that. Each of the 3 years, we've set new benchmarks, new records for exhibitors, new records for attendance. And we're a sold-out show. Last 3 years, we've sold out our footprint in Louisville, Kentucky, which is a very large venue. So just for your folks, it's 1,000,002 square feet, 30 acres outdoors. It's a comfortable shoe kind of show. And most importantly, it's not, a lot of folks go to trade shows and you're in a building and you look at shiny, pretty equipment. Here it's real world. We let you get outside, cut, dig, you name it, with equipment, experience it. It's real world. It's an experience.
Greg?
The equipment, you just said you had 28,000 people there. You guys are continuing to grow. What's driving the growth? And, for us to come out there October 21st to 24th and in the Kentucky Expo Center, what's driving all this growth?
I think we're listening to you guys in a better way. We're really surveying our attendees. And so one of the things, look, it has to be relevant to the business. It has to serve a purpose. Now, what we've learned from our attendees, and you folks in particular, influencers, podcasters, have helped us better understand the particular needs of our attendees. And that is, it's a combination of things, right? So it's the learning experience. That can be classroom. It can be hands-on. It's a place to bring your teams. And so we partner with folks. So whether it's landscape management, the Irrigation Association, the Spa Association, the tree care folks, we put on all kinds of education and training for our attendees. We put up a 60, 70-foot tree in Freedom Hall to have, it's real world kind of experiences. But we want to make sure that those education classes are what issues of the day are, and that we give you plenty of peer-to-peer opportunity to talk to one another. That's where the learning comes in, is how did you survive COVID? Or there was no snow this winter, we're in a poor cash position for spring buying. Is how did you survive? What did you do? Etc. And so one of the things that our show does that I think we do really well, we create those social environments. The opening reception at Churchill Downs. We rent the iconic Churchill Downs for our opening reception. We have a Wednesday night concert upcoming outdoors at 4th Street Live with the Crashers. We have a big concert indoors with Big and Rich and Gretchen Wilson. We have a 5K. We have a dog adoption event. We have all these social opportunities where our attendees can get together, hang out, have a beer and a pretzel kind of thing, and talk to one another, engage with one another. And the one thing we do always say, look, we're a citywide, right? So we're bringing in 28,500 people. We fill the city up. And so when you're in a hotel or you're in a restaurant, when you get in that hotel elevator, whoever's in that elevator is likely at our show, right? And so those conversations immediately get had. Where are you from? What do you do? What's your business? We're here to do the same thing. And that's where the engagement happens. And that's the nice thing about Louisville, right? For me, it's a Goldilocks kind of town. We're big enough. We're small enough. Although we stretch it, we present the show is an experience. It's not just a show in a building. It is a series of events over the course of 3 or 4 days that allow our folks to get together, socialize, mingle, and work. And it presents a terrific return on investment.
Well, Kris, man, that was a lot. That was a milkshake of good information. But the transition to kind of new features and updates for the 2025 show. I mean, one big announcement is Jesse Cole and Savannah Bananas owner. I don't even know who that is. That's a keynote speaker. What was the thinking in bringing him in, and how can that, what can landscapers and lawn care guys take away from his talk?
He's an entrepreneur. So he started with nothing and has built an extraordinary enterprise, right? The Savannah Bananas phenomenon.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's absolutely nuts.
And he's an interesting guy, and he's an interesting presenter. And so oftentimes, we'll have people that aren't in the space, but present a unique opportunity. One of these, and we do it with the OPEI annual meeting. We bring speakers in that you're just not going to see everywhere. Look, this guy is a very, very significant investment. Again, renting Churchill Downs, having Big and Rich at the convention center. These are very, very significant investments. We go into our pocket so that we're creating these kind of events. He's a dynamic guy. Savannah Bananas puts on a dynamic show, but he grew it from nothing. So he's just an entrepreneurial guy that can talk to folks in our space. The nice thing about the landscape contracting business is, you guys well know, so much of it is entrepreneurial. And we're 42 years young in Lowell, 42 shows. This is my 18th. So there are people I've met that were just starting out, right? 2 guys, a pickup truck, and a couple of mowers. And now they may be doing 20 million in business. And that's what I see over and over and over at Equip, is people coming into the business, learning from one another, in addition to the bright views, right? In addition to the $500 million companies. We run the gamut. It is a place to learn. And importantly, once you have your company, we're seeing now teams, right? They'll bring 10 people, 5 people, so that they work together, they socialize together, they experience these things together, so they improve themselves as a team unit. And that's one of the real growth trends we see. We also see younger and younger people coming to the show, which I'm thrilled to death with. And I credit you guys with that.
Oh, there you go, Greg. Hey, Greg, what question did you have? How do you lead off of that?
I didn't know I was a young influencer. Thank you. But hey,
compared to me, everybody is.
Yeah. So music's big at this expo this year. You've got Big and Rich and Gretchen Wilson kind of tag teaming there. That looks pretty fun for Thursday night. How do these experiences add to the registration and scheduling and such?
It just and we've been known as a music kind of show since inception. We've had extraordinary acts over the years, long before, predates me. But it's one of those things we're sort of known for, is providing music. Louisville's a foodie town. It's an entertainment town. And we like to give our folks that opportunity to hang out, enjoy a concert. But importantly, I know, we have big events at that concert. We've changed venues. We were in the Yum the last 2 years. We're going to go over to the newly renovated Kentucky International Exhibition Center that's adjacent to the Hyatt and Marriott downtown. It provides an opportunity to socialize with one another, hang out, like I said, have a beer, have a pretzel, do some things in a social environment. It's just where people learn. They let their guard down. They talk to one another. We have the same thing at the show, right? With the morning show or Energize, where folks are given the opportunity to interact with one another, to help build their business, to understand what experiences and what you guys have done. How did you handle the latest tax change or what have you? I'm always amazed. I stick my head in the door. Is people that stand up, raise their hand, they share their experiences, and that's where learning takes place. And so these concerts or the opening reception or what have you are just structured opportunities to do that.
Kris, that's a great answer and a way to put it. So, a couple new features here. There's a buzz. Well, there's the bourbon, I guess the bourbon collaboration for 2025. It's a Kentucky event, so it's perfect, right? What can you tell us about this? And is there, maybe a chance to taste some bourbon there at the show? And then secondly, not to get too off the beaten path, you guys are offering housing for people now, so they can book, through isn't it like the Kentucky Housing? It's like an association to be able to book that way too to stay.
Yeah, that's Louisville Tourism, right? So they handle the housing because we're what's called a citywide, right? So we take up all the available hotel rooms. We have all these contracts with these properties. They give us X rooms. That's why we, as an event, we have a pretty attractive rate structure for our hotels. Again, we fill them up. What I want to tell your folks, we are not a one-day show. We're just not. We're just too big for that. We have too much to offer. And plan. So what happens is in the old days, you could, I'll decide a week out. That is no longer the case. If you want to figure out where you want to stay, right? So Louisville's a place of neighborhoods. If you want to stay downtown near the downtown action, or you want to stay out by the Kentucky Exposition Center, right? Because that's out by the airport. If you want to stay in the East End, which is happening, or Nulu, which is happening, find those hotels now and reserve them now. As you know, as you get closer and those properties fill up, they get more expensive. Exact same thing for your plane tickets. If you're flying in here, get that plane ticket now. It will get way more expensive as you get closer to the show and things fill up. But that's this is a planning show. Same thing with your time when you're here on the ground. There's lots of classes, lots of opportunities, lots of things to do. Remember, it's 1 million and change square feet. So you got to have an attack plan. So get online, look at those classes. As you know, they fill up. A lot of these classes fill up. So it's one of those things that you really want to plan. If you're going to take the time, money, energy to come to Louisville, plan for our show because it's a big show. What was the first part of that question?
The first part was that there's a unique bourbon collaboration for this show.
Now we're talking.
Fill us in.
So yes,
I'm not a bourbon guy, but fill us in.
Well, I moved when we brought the show in house. I still commute to it from our place in DC, but I moved to Louisville, and I'm telling you, you have bourbon with your cereal in the morning out here. It's a thing in Kentucky, and it's legit. So part of being in Kentucky, right? Bourbon. There's the Urban Bourbon Trail and the Bourbon Trail, and understanding the history of that particular distilled spirit relative to the state. So we want to get in the game. And yes, we bought what's called a free agent barrel from a master distiller in Bardstown, a name brand. Actually, I've tasted it. We just there's a word for it. I don't know what it is. Where you pour it out of the barrel. It's been proofed and that sort of thing. And we asked our attendees to help us name it. And so we do have a name. We do have a winner. I don't think we're ready to announce it just yet. But yes, we will have a show bourbon. So it's, Equip Reserve 42, and then it has a special name that one of our attendees gave us. We are bottling it as we speak. Now, we can't sell that bourbon, but we will make it available, raffles, winners, etc. But year over year now, we're likely to have a show bourbon because that's just part of the Louisville experience.
There you go. That ought to be interesting. But other thing about your experience there is the legendary outdoor demo yard. I think you guys have about 30 acres over there, a lot of hand testing and twist turns, moguls, and such. Anything new in any highlights you can tell us about what's going on for anything different this year?
We've moved the UTV experience to a larger. We've moved it around a little bit. So we were moving the UT to where, it's toward the airport. It's outdoors, but we're going to give the UTV folks a little more space. It gives us a little more room when we build them a hill and some other things. We're going to have 2 tracks. So we'll have sort of an outdoor track, and then there's so much UTV equipment now that is driven on hard surface. So we'll have a hard surface track as well. A little more there. That gives us what's called the D lot. It's over by the horse barns. That will now transition to outdoor space. As I described, we're sold out. And so we've got a lot of manufacturers and exhibitors that want to expand, move, evolve their booths. And we're there's not enough real estate. So we're outdoors. We're retooling the outdoors to improve upon that. We're also changing up Freedom Hall, the floor of Freedom Hall now. So we'll have to put our tree back up in there. We'll do some bucket trucks in there. And a lot of battery stuff is now being demoed indoors. So that's one of the big transitions. So you have the outdoor space for engine product and battery product, but we're starting to see exhibitors now create spaces in their indoor booths to experience product that they can run indoors, battery product. So it's an evolving show floor in the experience side of things.
Hey, Greg, I think you had a good question about the exhibitors with that might stump Kris, right? Let's see if you can stump him.
I'm trying to think which question that was.
We wrote some questions down here. There's one about the 1,000 exhibitors. We curated this.
Okay, 1,000 exhibitors. It's it's a Gearheads experience or paradise. Are there any trends in mowing equipment, battery powered or robotics that you think you're going to see some? You're going to think you'll see that will dominate the floor this year? Or any new changes?
So ongoing on the technology side, right? So one of the things I think you will see more of, and I remember when robots came in, a few years back when they were like the size of vacuums, right? The little bitty guys. Now they're the size of cars. Is the evolution and the ongoing evolution of technology and software to operate these things, whether they're robotics, whether they're remote controlled. You'll see more and more in that space. One of the challenges, I don't want to talk politics, but we're in a period of uncertainty. So with a new administration in place, there's significant, whether it's tariffs, inbound product transportation challenges, product availability, tariffs from Mexico, China, Canada, et cetera. There's disruption in the marketplace. Now that becomes challenging. We don't know what the price points are for products per se, the inbound parts, et cetera, for manufacturing. And what we saw in the first Trump term was a lot of uncertainty in the seasonal immigration pool, the labor pool, legal immigration, seasonal immigration. It's not just landscape labor, H-2B labor. It's Caribbean chefs for the New England hotel industry kind of thing. So there's lots of uncertainty and disruption in those spaces. One of the ways you get at that, if you don't have labor or labor is challenging, are robotics, right? And multiple units controlled by a single person. So that's likely to evolve. You'll likely see some efforts in that regard. Enhanced robotics, certainly there's a lot of new battery offerings, a lot more battery offerings in the commercial space, in the wheeled goods space. Certainly more product there will be shown at Expo. So the latest and greatest, and one of the things that Expo we're kind of known for, and I know it's part of our almost theme this year, is in times of disruption, in times of uncertainty, this is the kind of show where you can get with one another. How are you handling this? What are the challenges you face? What price points, inventory, finance, whatever. These are the kinds of things that are affecting everybody similarly. And it's a great place to learn. So there will be, we have 1,000 exhibits, probably 700 exhibit tours. Some of our companies, Toro, Ditch Witch, Spartan, Toro, may have different brands in different booths. But yeah, there's 1,000 exhibits over 1 million square feet, 30 acres. So again, comfortable shoes, real world, you're indoors, outdoors. Check the weather app.
Big time. We always got to check the weather when we're going down into Louisville, especially during this time, Kris. It can be either really nice or not. So you got education sessions, Kris, and you touched on this. They're in English and in Spanish, which that's pretty cool. Greg and I, we checked out the hydro transmission class last year, Greg, and we really enjoyed that, Greg, didn't we?
It was great. I wish I knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, that's a problem, Kris. We went into a class it was a hydro transmission class, but it was for guys who actually worked on them. But so it was way overhead. But we really enjoyed that. But to kind of press this more, because the education is so important coming down to this show. Sure, it's networking and talking with the guys and shooting the breeze. But what are some practical takeaways that a lawn care business can expect from these classes? There's everything, isn't there?
real world and certifications, right? So we did add a couple years ago, and it's taken off. Certification for the input guys, sprayers, et cetera. So we have a number of states now which recognize you can come get your certifications and get your training. That will be accepted by any number of states. So we just want it to be real world, that the education, it's not pie in the sky. It's something you can take away, benefits you or your company immediately. And we change it up every year. It's not the same education year over year. So if there's changes in state certifications, changes in the tax code, changes in business software, we hope that our education reflects that. And it changes year over year. So this year, there are any number of new changes, any number of new partners. Again, we partner with folks in this space, the professionals that do it. I know we've changed up with the Davey Institute. We have some new tree care offerings coming up, new stuff in that space. And we've retooled our footprint relative to Freedom Hall. We have a very unusual space in Freedom Hall. It says crazy high ceiling. So we've got, we're going to have ropes hanging from the ceilings, and we have the world's largest Christmas tree stand. We put up a 70-foot tree. So again, get online to see what's available. That will help your thinking. Because again, like you guys, there's a whole lot of stuff there that I don't understand, but we think it's relative to the business because these offerings are based on what we've heard from attendees.
Hey, Greg, why don't you tell the listeners how they can save you on the show, right? That's coming up. It's never too early to sign up, right?
That's right. And Kris, if we can have you tell the listeners how to register, but right now there's a $25 spring savings registration. And if you combine that with the Turf Nerds promo code, that'd get them down to $12.50.
Never cheaper. Show me a trade show or a conference, education conference, or learning space that's $12. I mean, seriously, it's an extraordinary opportunity. It's extraordinary. Again, we help you guys to help us by getting these folks, your listeners, registered. Do it now. You can register right now for the show. Do it now. Take advantage of these savings. It will not be cheaper than it is today. It will continue to increase. How do they register?
I'm sorry.
Go to our website. Go to our website, equipexposition.com, and that's the place to get registered.
And they've updated the website, correct? They've updated the Equip Expo website registration. It's far easier, Kris. I know there's some problems. Last year they had some problems with people signing up, didn't they?
Well, we've changed vendors in that space, and there had been a data breach with a previous vendor, and there were all kinds of issues with that. But we did earlier got our inbound vendor, MCI stood up. And I think all of that's resolved. But we have folks registering right now. We're actually tracking well ahead of last year at the same time. So we anticipate, we've already notified our exhibitors. We already have looked at our preliminary data. I believe we're going to be sold out again on the show floor. We're running ahead in registrations, and we're running ahead in move requests, expansion requests. We're going to have another big show, is all I can tell you.
Now, Kris, last year there was basically 29,000 attendees in 2024, but Greg and we got the feel though too, and we saw it on Facebook groups that sure you sold that many tickets, but we didn't really feel please correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't feel maybe because of the hurricanes and everything that came through, the attendance wasn't as big as what the actual tickets that you sold. Is that correct? Or please correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're pretty close. Yes, that's your registration. I think we're pretty close to that. We didn't track the exact number of people that came through the doors, and it changes significantly over the course of the week. Some people come in the first part of the week, some come in the latter part of the week. It's unusual that you would have 28,500 people from Tuesday night to Friday morning. But that's very close because part of the predicate there are the hotel numbers, which are usually pretty firm. But we're mighty close to that.
Well, that's good to know. It seems like the show is going up and up and up every year. Okay, so Kris, Greg has one last question about the demo yard. Why don't you ask him, Greg?
Okay, Kris, you got your demo yard. You got it sounds like it's moved to a better spot. And what's your pick? What are you riding out there?
Oh my gosh, you give me in trouble, guys. I do go, believe it or not, I do go out there and I do mess around. Now, luckily I'm there. I get to go early. And I get to do some preliminary stuff. There's always something new. Now, the 30 acres is directly behind the building. That remains unchanged. I mean, there's some exhibits that have moved around in there, but that's the lion's share of the outdoor space. The upper east, northeast corner is the UTV track, which did move. We've moved some stuff, but the lion's share of the outdoor space is the same as it's been. It's directly behind the building, which again is very unique to Louisville in that a lot of shows have outdoor space, but they have to bus their attendees there or shuttle them someplace. Ours, you walk out the back door and you're in our space. So very, very unique. Guys, lots of good stuff. Lots. You're just going to have to come. That's all I can tell you. You're just going to have to come to the show and see it.
Well, that's a perfect way, Greg, right, to kind of park the mower back in the trailer. Chris, thank you for hopping on. We're going to get you on 2 more times this upcoming year. We'll do one kind of midsummer, and then we'll do the Kris Kiser hype-up show like we did last year right before the show. Greg and I, we actually saw you, to not keep it for too much longer, we saw you last year. The West Wing opened, Greg, and that was a cool side because we had a podcast with a robotic mowing company. It was called Go Mow by High Green, and we ran into Chris walking. Dude, Chris, you were like a wizard. You're everywhere. I didn't think we'd see you on the show, but I saw you probably two or three different times. It was pretty cool.
I get my steps in. It's a big venue, and again, certainly if you haven't been here before, just remind folks, dress comfortably, wear comfortable shoes. It's a big experience, and if you're out, look, and if it's raining and you're outside, you're going to get wet. If it's dry and dusty, you're going to get dry and dusty. So bring an extra pair of clothes they can change into for dinner or for the concert. But it's a real world experience, and you're amongst, I call it a family reunion. You're amongst family. You're amongst dealers, distributors, hardscapers, irrigation folks, people in the business. Remember, we're not a public show. So of that 28,500, that's a B2B show. These are people in the business. It's not open to the public. So it's a unique place to go.
Perfect. Greg, any last words before we let him go?
Hello, this is Greg.
Oh,
I think he muted
already
himself. He already muted himself. We have some comedy here on the show.
I guess I was done with you, Chris, huh? Really? I'm sorry. Sorry about that. No, we appreciate you coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on and enjoy talking with you. We look forward to the show. I'm excited again to see the opportunities that are there this year. And thanks for working on that housing authority, because I know some guys have issues trying to find places. So guys, jump on. Get your reservations, sign up and register for the show. Get your hotel reservations, your flight reservations, because, hey, I just booked a flight to go down and visit my son or go over and visit my son. I looked at it, didn't book it. A week later, I looked back on it, and it was double the price. So get on and get all your reservations in now, guys.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate your help.
Thanks, Chris. We'll talk to you in the summer. Thank you.